Hi, Tony Selzo here. Welcome to Galvanize. I got Dustin and my partner in crime. Dustin has no idea what I'm about to talk about because I told him I had one of those experiences this week, was just something I was going to riff on. And I'm a big fan of David Goggins. Have you seen this SEAL, this crazy guy that's out there? Hey, David Goggins actually lived in Carmel, Indiana. Actually lived at the same place that I did, Mohawk Hills, when I first moved here. The book that he references in there where he's like lived on the golf course, he was there. He actually came into my restaurant and was our Ecolab salesman. If you know that story, if you've read any of his stuff, if you've been really followed what he's gone through, I mean, this guy is broke the pull-up record. He has broke the.
He's massive.
He is crazy. He's the most craziest endurance athlete. I mean, he doesn't really have the body, if you look at him, to do what I would think do endurance sports, right? But he's an ultra marathoner. He's been a part of, I think, 3 out of the 4 or 2 of the 3 special forces of every division of the military. Been a SEAL twice, right? I mean, so the only person that's gone through SEAL FITS training 3 times and passed, or no, three times. Anyways, so going through one of these particular struggles in my personal life with some X stuff, and I'm listening to his video or some of his stuff this morning, and one of the things he talks about is your relationship with pain. Okay, and that we as humans always want pain to end now. Yeah. We think whatever we're going through, and I'm going to say in this generation, we really don't know pain. Like our kids don't know pain, not real pain, right? What was our grandparents was probably the last generation to really know, real legitimate pain. But I'm talking about really being uncomfortable, right? Being uncomfortable that's in an uncomfortable situation. And what I mean is we wish it to end. Yeah. And one of the things he says in one of the videos he's doing, he's training this guy. He's he wrote another book. There was another book about him living with a SEAL, and this guy's an entrepreneur. He's kind of like one. Really would be. We'd love to have him on here as a guest. He says this one thing to him. I think he's had him do 300 burpees that day. He had him run like 7 miles, and then they decided that he woke him out of the blue to do another 13 miles. Okay, and these are not slow miles, these are not easy miles, and the guy is really just breaking down. He doesn't want to go on, and David's really just telling him, look, everything ends. This too will end, right? It's actually a very biblical message, right? Yeah. It's a very powerful message to understand that life has seasons, and that whatever God's asking you to go through at this point is your worship to Him to understand what He wants you to learn. And that was what was powerful for me. It was just like just tying that all together, because you think you cannot do it another day, and you think that you can't make it go another hour, another minute, and yet you are a lot more capable of what you're really are capable of, right? You don't really know what you can do. In fact, his theory is that when you think you have met your end, when you've got to what you think you can do and you're at your limit, you're still 60% away from your true max. Wow. Right? So just process that. Just process anything that you're going through in your business, anything that you're going through in your personal life, anything that you're going through financially. You think you are at your end, but you're still 1.5 times away for what you're fully capable of. He has tested this on himself. He's like he's got to the point in races, in anything that he's tried to do from an endurance standpoint. Once he ran an ultra marathon at 255, I think maybe been 260 pounds. Jeez. He just volunteered to do it to help some wounded for a wounded soldier program, and about 40% through the race he thought he was done. And then he just figured out how to take another step, and then another step, and then another step, and to convince his body to move forward. I think this is a very powerful message a lot of us need to get our head around. Yeah. When you think you're done, you are not done. Have you ever been in that point in your own business where you thought you were done?
Yes, I have. And it's amazing. Depending on your personality, sometimes it's natural to get yourself, what you got into it, get yourself out.
Yeah.
And I think that was helpful for me in the situation I was in, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been there, and there are long days and short nights, and you feel like why am I even here? And but yeah, I mean, what you're saying is absolutely true. Yeah.
Well, and you said it's like what got you into it can get you out, but how about the mental recognition that you're so much more capable than what you really think you're capable of, right? I think that's one of the things I would love everybody. Like, every time you think you're done, you truly have 1.5 times more your capacity. And I know, like I've mentioned this twice, I've started over twice in business, and I'm always amazed at what I can build back to and how quickly I can get there. And you just said that, right? You never really lose everything.
So let me ask a question. So a lot of business, I mean, you're not the only business owner that's had to start over before, and I was almost there. I guess I pretty much did, but what is that one thing that makes you, as a business owner, get to that point where you're like, all right, I'm all in, so I'm either going to have to start over, or I'm, I mean, do you cautiously get to that point and then back off, or are you just like, you know what, I'm in a hole, I'm going to try to dig myself out, and if I'm not able to do it, then
yeah, well,
I mean, what happens?
I think necessity is the mother of skill, right? I mean, when you have no other choice, there's this burn the boats theory, right?
Yeah, right.
When you got to do it, you for sure have to do it. I think a lot of it too has to do with standards. What is your personal standard? Like, if your personal standard is to have a roof over your head, you never not have a roof over your head. If your personal standard is to have $100,000 in the bank in your checking account, you never not have that. If your personal standard is to take care of your family and to afford a lifestyle, you always figure that out. You may have gaps below that, but you make that happen. The other thing, I think one of the things that David says, and it's like, a lot of us deal with this, is this imposter syndrome, right? That we all, think that, we've got to a level above what we're really capable of, and then we kind of self-sabotage. What I would say is that, one of the things that's very powerful about it, he says, why not me? Why not I do this now? Well, how great would it be if I were able to do this? And that's a really different mindset. It's like, well, why would you be the next, multi-billion-dollar real estate company that comes out of Indianapolis, right? Why? What makes you think you could do that? Well, why not you? Why not Dustin Roll? Why not Tony Selzer, right? I mean, I think that's part of that mindset. Like, why not me? Why somebody else instead of you, right? Or why does it have to be an or thing? Which is our favorite thing, right? Is why can't we be in abundance together? Business is the only game where both people can win, right? I mean, actually, all three people can win. You can win, the customer can win, and the other person that's receiving the service can win, right? I mean, it's like, that's the game. And I think that's part of the beauty of the game you play, right? And what you do for your clients. That's part of what we do for ours. It's how do we find a game where everybody wins, that we can create true abundance for them. You got to believe in that. Yeah, you do. And then I think you have to have a little bit of that attitude that says, why not me? For me, it's always like, man, you piss off a Dago enough, I'm going to figure out a way. I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine who runs another technology company, Mike Kelly, great guy. We'll have him on the show. Okay. Mike, hopefully I'm going to send this to you so you can see the name drop. But Mike and I were talking, as like, he said, there's this line in this movie we both like, and he said, hey, my will is stronger than yours, right? And I kind of laugh at that, because we both have that mindset. You're going to like me. We're going to do this together, and my will is stronger than yours, right? And if you maintain that attitude, if you can stay in rapport with whoever you're trying to create a deal with, or if you can keep that attitude to whatever you're trying to accomplish, and you just really make failing is not an option, you've never truly failed. Is that fair?
In your mind, you may not. Right. Yeah. Failure's not an option. I think it's a great quote. But getting there to a point where it's like it's not an option that's hard. That's extremely hard.
That is hard. Well, it's very uncomfortable. Yeah. To get there, right? To kind of go full circle around the barn, and it's
maybe that's why people go broke.
It's so they can know that they have to.
So they know that you have to get there in order to.
I do think that's it. I think so. At 28, I was literally selling self-development material at a garage sale after a year before being recognized as one of the young up-and-coming executives in Indianapolis. for technology companies. And I can remember thinking, what a low, right? And how awful that was. In fact, I had somebody bring a magazine. I was bartending, and I was taking my tips and giving it back to our team for payroll, to make up for payroll, because we weren't paying our people. And they were really into the vision. But I can remember thinking to myself, this somebody took this magazine and said, "Hey, isn't this you? You're this executive?" And it was printed like 60 days after we had just had ran out of money. And you have a last name like Celzo, you can't really deny that's you. I mean, what do I say? I have a twin brother, And we I was like, yeah, that's me. And they were like, what happened? And I had to tell the very painful story. And I remember telling that very, very painful story and saying, this will not define me. And I think that's part of what burning the ships is like. You have to make that decision that this will not define you, right? And that you are going to create the definition for yourself. And that's what I think Goggins is talking about. It's like, it's dealing with that pain so you give it a positive definition of what it's going to mean in your life and what it's going to do for your growth. You've done that. I know. I've watched you do it. I've seen you build this business and deal with losses that would have crushed a lot of other businesses, right? And I think that's part of it. I think it's building a muscle in your brain that knows what you can deal with, as far as stress, as far as risk, as far as everything. You have to be cognizant of it. You don't want to go out and test it unwillingly, right? I think that's part of like some of us get too cowboyish with that, right? Which is probably what you're speaking to a little bit, right? There's like those two versions of yourself. How do you play within those reins?
Yeah, the first 3 years of my business was cowboyish because you're doing it on your own, and then once you start adding people, it can't be as cowboyish as it was before.
Yeah. Well, hey, like cowboys really, they were the pioneers that took over, and helped, settle this country. But when you get to the point where people are given the responsibility of their income as employees to you, you have to make decisions differently. Just like when you become a parent. I mean, it's just like you become the parent of that business. And tying it back, all I was really trying to share is like when you're going through those low points. There's another great book that I would recommend everybody read. It's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and it's because it's written about these guys have gone through business at a really good VC firm that have started multiple billion-dollar businesses. But they talk about the things that no one talks about in leadership and business today, because all leadership books in business are written about the guys who are harvesting that are, just dealing with positive and negative, sitting on millions of dollars of cash in the bank. When you're cowboying up and you're putting your everything out there, you have to make hard decisions. And a lot of times you got a sucky ass option and a worse option. And the only thing you can do is decide what is the least worst option. And if you don't make the decisions in a timely enough manner, weeks can put that business out of business. And so when you've dealt with it at that nth degree and you're dealing with it at the other nth degrees, you tend to make different decisions. So it usually takes a cowboy to get in the game. Sure. And it takes a more tamed approach to run and build an organization. I think that recognizing where you're at in your life and in your business is part of that. But recognizing that even more than that, there's a lot more pain that you can go through than you think you're really capable of. I think that's my big message for today.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
cool, man.
Shake and bake.